we're going back in time for this one. I will take you through the different eras that defined modern cosplay as we know it, and at the end, speculate where it might be heading in the future. Let's go back in time. Before cosplay, there was fan costuming. In 1939, the first instance of a person wearing a costume at a sci-fi convention was recorded during the World Science Fiction Convention in New York. Myrtle R. Douglas made futurist costumes for herself and Forrest J. Ackerman, and the two have been credited for the invention of fandom costuming ever since. In the following decades, sci-fi conventions began to incorporate costume contests into their programming until fan costuming became a small but consistent presence at conventions by the 1980s. Then, something very interesting happened. Cosplay? Cosplay. In 1984, Japanese writer Nobuyuki Takahashi attended the sci-fi event Worldcon in the United States and saw attendees running around in costumes. After returning home to Japan, Takahashi wrote a magazine article about the experience and referred to the activity as cosplay, an amalgamation of the words costume and play. It resonated with the Japanese audience and soon sparked imitators. These fans dressed up as characters from sources they were familiar with, Eastern entertainment like anime, manga, and video games. Thus, cosplay, a new branch of fan costuming, was born. By the mid-90s, cosplay in Japan had become not only popular, but a career loosely related to glamour modeling. The demand for cosplay content led to the establishment of a focused costuming retail industry in Japan, and to this day, there are more cosplay-related products available in Japan than anywhere else in the world. While Japan's cosplay community thrived, the scene in the US was still dormant. The growing interest in anime and manga eventually led Western fans to discover fan costuming, but in the style of Japanese cosplay. And people in America began to dress up at conventions as characters in bright, color-block costumes from Japanese sources. I was one of those people, by the way. I first cosplayed in 1999 at Anime Expo in California in a self-made costume from the anime Yu Yu Hakusho. The 90s was truly the inception of modern cosplay as we know it today. Fast forward a few years, and the cosplay community can only be described as the Wild West in the early 2000s. It didn't fit the parameters of traditional fan costuming, which approached craftsmanship with maturity and gravitated towards grown-up characters in sci-fi. When cosplayers smashed onto the scene, our outfits were made with childish abandon and appeared very amateurish by comparison. Those of us who picked up sewing for cosplay soon realized how steep the learning curve was. In the early 2000s, costumes were mostly stitched, safety pinned, or glued together out of low-quality shiny satin and cotton. Anything outside of sewing was pure experimentation, where cosplayers used a wild array of materials to make props and armor, including cardboard, garbage bins, soda bottles, and plumbing parts. Resources such as fabrics and trims were seriously lacking, and we only had low-quality Halloween wigs to choose from. But the biggest barrier for cosplayers at that time was the lack of knowledge and information sharing. Because cosplay was such an unknown activity practiced by a small group of amateurs, we would essentially invent the wheel over and over again by figuring out the same crafting solutions on our own. However, the lack of resources forced cosplayers to innovate and find unconventional craft methods, and there was an air of fearlessness in how we dived into each costume. I want to quickly interject that while the Renaissance era was awesome and full of innovation, it also experienced a lot of growing pains. As with any fringe culture that gains traction, there were gatekeepers and elitists who resisted change and wanted to keep cosplay authentic and contained. Any step towards commercialization or legitimizing cosplay as a career was denounced as selling out. So cosplayers would be scrutinized for becoming convention guests or signing autographs or even just self-promoting their websites. Guess who was considered one of those sellouts? Nevertheless, the community evolved despite these growing pains, and cosplay eventually became a niche of its own. Now let's talk about a time period that brought monumental change to cosplay and the world, the social media era. As we entered the 2010s, social media became the primary form of communication, entertainment, and expression, and it propelled cosplay into a global phenomenon. You see, cosplay was tailor-made for social media, with its visual, geeky, and artistic content. Whereas a few years ago, self-promotion was seen as selling out, in the new likes-driven climate of social media, it was encouraged. Simultaneously, the shift in pop culture towards sci-fi also turned fandom conventions into a billion-dollar global business. As more conventions competed against each other, organizers realized that cosplay was an attraction for their attendees, and cosplayers were a great marketing tool to advertise their events. Cosplayers who were able to amass large followings on social media could leverage their newfound fame into income by ways of getting paid to be a con guest and by merchandising their image. Cosplay even got its own network TV show, which aired in 2013 and which I was a part of. You know a niche has gone mainstream when they make a TV show about it. In the early 2010s, cosplay went from being primarily a hobby to becoming a global phenomenon and a vehicle for brand building. For the first time ever, cosplayers could enter the world of cosplay with a career in mind and work towards it from day one. It was quite exciting to see more value placed on cosplay as an artistic job, and it only took a few years for it to become a commercialized industry. Thirst for costume-making knowledge led many cosplayers to produce educational content in the form of tutorial videos, how-to booklets, and pattern templates, all of which could be monetized. Video game companies started to hire cosplayers for marketing campaigns and event promotion. And there were enough events that cosplayers could work the con circuit year-round as their primary source of income. Some cosplayers became streamers or influencers, while others went down the path of costume and prop commissions. The crafting and sewing industry also finally took notice of cosplay as a new market, and more cosplay-focused tools and materials were developed for mass retail. By the way, my next video will be a breakdown of the different cosplay career paths, so be sure to subscribe and click the bell to be notified when it drops. This is also the era of awakenings within the community, where long-standing cultural problems like racism and sexism were addressed at large. Persistent issues like blackfacing in cosplay and discrimination against Black cosplayers were openly denounced as the community adopted a zero-tolerance stance towards them. Sexual harassment of female cosplayers at conventions used to be sadly pretty common. But after years of public outcry and the Me Too movement, there are now more protective safety measures in place for cosplayers at events. Many changes for the better were due to cosplayers taking the initiative and engaging in activism. Viral hashtags like 28 Days of Black Cosplay that highlights Black cosplayers during the month of February and anti-harassment campaigns like Cosplay is not consent were all created within the community. Of course, these and other problems in cosplay still exist, and it will require ongoing effort to make the cosplay community more inclusive and welcoming. But I think cosplay has really developed a sense of collective identity during this era. Finally, we reach the present time, so let's talk about, and I'm sorry for this, the TikTok era. For the past 2 years, a global pandemic has disrupted all our lives and changed how we socialize, entertain, and express ourselves. Cosplay was of course also heavily affected, and for a while the community shifted entirely over to online content and interactions. Since 2020, cosplay on TikTok has exploded. I, like many cosplayers, made an account on TikTok and learned how to make videos during the pandemic. The short video format is perfect for cosplay transformations and gave cosplayers an outlet for dressing up when they were unable to go to conventions. Very quickly, videos on cosplay TikTok became all about emulating digital characters as perfectly as possible through acting, performance, and makeup. Also, the high-paced turnover rate on TikTok caused creators to gravitate towards ready-to-wear costumes and quick cosplay projects in order to come up with new videos all the time. As a result, trends in cosplay are now less focused on craftsmanship and more about matching physical likeness to digital characters. The pandemic also caused an influx in marketing opportunities for cosplayers as companies moved all their marketing strategies to social media and the web. This has created a new sense of urgency within the community where every cosplayer is hoping and chasing sponsorships and influencer campaigns with gaming and tech companies. Cosplay is now closer to influencer culture than ever. So, is that where cosplay is headed? Into a future where every cosplayer looks like an anime character and wears the same ready-to-wear mass-produced costume? Where content is all about character appearance and no one cares about unique handmade costumes anymore? My answer is no. Cosplay has become too big of a global community, beloved by too many people from all walks of life to ever be defined by one aspect of it. Character likeness has and will always be a part of the cosplay experience, but there are many other creative ways for people to cosplay, such as infusing a character with their heritage, envisioning a character in an alternate universe setting, or even mashing two fandoms together to create a one-of-a-kind cosplay. The most visible trends in cosplay right now are the social media specific trends because that's all we have as means of communication at the moment. But conventions are coming back and we will see more variety in the way people cosplay as more of us go to events again. What makes cosplay so captivating is the unique intersection of fandom and hands-on art creation. The passion cosplayers feel for both will continue to drive the community forward, and I really believe it is big enough to include all types of cosplayers and all methods of cosplaying, even far into the future. Thank you for going on this journey with me of cosplay through the eras. Please check out my book if you're interested in learning more about the culture of cosplay. For those of you who have been cosplaying for 10, 15, 20 years or longer, was your impression similar to mine, or do you have a different perspective on how and when cosplay changed? I also am super curious what your predictions for the future of cosplay is, so let me know in the comments. If you have enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more videos about content creation and cosplay. My next video is all about cosplay careers and how to make money in this industry, so be sure to tune in. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm Yaya Han, and I wish you happy crafting.